Hi everyone, Dr. Mike here. In this video, we're taking a look at right-sided heart failure. Let's take a look. Okay, so to begin, this functional anatomy image that I've drawn up here has separated the left-hand side of the heart from the right-hand side of the heart because they're two separate circulations. As you know, normally blood flow, oxygenated blood will go from the lungs, right, where it gets oxygenated, into the left-hand side of the heart, where it will be contracted, pumped out of the left-hand side of the heart via the aorta and all the rest of the arteries to deliver oxygenated blood to the body. Brilliant. That deoxygenated, or at least relatively deoxygenated blood will go back to the right-hand side of the heart via the venous supply. Enter the right-hand side of the heart, it will contract and pump blood up to the lungs to become oxygenated, and the whole thing starts again. You understand this, you can understand heart failure. My last video I spoke about left-sided heart failure. Hopefully you've watched that, no stress if you haven't. Let's focus now on the right. So if the job of the right-hand side of the heart is to contract and pump deoxygenated blood to the lungs, right? That's the forward effect. That's its job, pumping blood to the lungs to become oxygenated. If it stops pumping, right, because this is what heart failure is, the heart's ability to work as a pump is no longer working adequately. So if the right-hand side can't work as a pump, it can't deliver that blood to the lungs. Right side heart failure. So 1, blood doesn't get to the lungs for oxygenation. 2, it backs up. It backs up where? Into the venous supply, and you can get venous congestion and a whole range of issues which we're going to talk about in a second. So what can cause the right-hand side of the heart to stop effectively working as a pump to throw blood to the lungs to become oxygenated and possibly result in venous congestion? Well, the number one factor by far is left-sided heart failure. Left-sided heart failure is the number one cause of right-sided heart failure. Now, why is that? Well, if the left-hand side of the heart no longer effectively works as a pump, what happens to that blood? That blood goes backwards. It leads to congestion, right? Now, that means the right-hand side of the heart, when it contracts, it needs to pump blood up. And look what it faces. It faces heavy traffic, congestion. So there is a resistance, a pressure that it needs to overcome from the left-hand side of the heart not working properly. This pressure overload can cause a couple of things. Now, if you watch my left-sided heart failure video, you would have seen me write the following up, right? If there is a pressure overload, right, so pressure increase, what the heart does to try and overcome it is it remodels, it tries to change itself. So if it's a pressure it's trying to overcome, what it ends up doing is it undergoes what's called concentric hypertrophy. So hypertrophy is an increase in the muscle itself. Concentric tells you how those sarcomeres, the contractile units, are changing. So think about it like this. If that's a single sarcomere and its job is to contract and shorten, we know muscles have multiple sarcomeres. And so when all of them contract and shorten, the whole thing shortens, right? Okay, so if you have concentric hypertrophy, what happens is you're adding more sarcomeres, but you're adding them in parallel. So there's our series of sarcomeres, we're adding more here. So we're making the muscle thicker, more sarcomeres, more contractile capability, and it's a thicker muscle. What that translates to for a ventricle, right? So if that is the heart muscle, bird's eye view, normal heart muscle, there's the thick heart muscle itself, there's the hollow ventricle. If it undergoes concentric hypertrophy, it gets, 1, it gets bigger, but 2, it gets thicker, right? That's how the heart responds to increased pressure, right? Increased pressure that it experiences. But here's the other thing. If it is exposed to volume increases, so it actually just fills up with more blood than it's used to, it will also undergo hypertrophy, but it's not called concentric hypertrophy, it's called eccentric hypertrophy. So again, hypertrophy, the muscle's getting bigger, but it gets bigger in a different way. Instead of adding in parallel here, it adds sarcomeres in series, right? So that there is the concentric change, right? Now, if again, normal muscle, and then what does it turn into? It turns into, because it's adding, there's your normal sarcomeres, it adds it in series. So it just adds more to the chain. So obviously the muscle is going to get bigger, but it doesn't get thicker. So how does it look? Well, the muscle gets bigger, but it actually gets dilated, meaning the hollow inside of the ventricle dilates. It's still a hypertrophy. That's an eccentric hypertrophy. So in response to pressure increases or pressure overload, concentric hypertrophy. In response to volume overloads, you get eccentric hypertrophy. All right, now what's happening here? So digress, let's go back. We've got a pressure overload because it's trying to overcome a resistant pressure. So what does the right side of the heart do to try and overcome this? It tries to become thicker. Now, here's the problem with that on the right-hand side of the heart. The right-hand side of the heart is a low pressure system, right? It's a volume side, it's not a pressure side. This side of the heart, look how thick the ventricle wall is compared to the right. It's, 3-4 times thicker. So this is a pressure system on this side. This is a volume system. So this side of the heart, the left-hand side of the heart, it can respond through concentric hypertrophy when it's exposed to resistance, when it's exposed to high pressures. It can get thicker, and you can see that. This side tries to, and it gets a little bit thicker, and then fails. And what it ends up doing when it fails is that the volume will build up, and then eccentric hypertrophy occurs. So what happens in response to left-sided heart failure is it's exposed to this pressure, it gets a little bit thicker, that fails, and over time, eccentric hypertrophy occurs, and you end up getting a dilated cardiomyopathy, which is exactly what we're seeing here. Now, this is called, because remember, that's the capillary bed in the pulmonary circulation. There's the lungs shown to you as one alveolus, right? That's called the post-capillary. That's the pre-capillary. So this left side heart failure is post-capillary. This is an issue that's post-capillary. And the reason why I say that is because the next cause of right side heart failure, number 2, is a pre-capillary cause. This is pulmonary hypertension. So again, it's pretty much, well, it's very similar to this, where the pressures are building up back here, right? Building up back here for it to overcome, but it's not a post-capillary cause, it's a pre-capillary cause. So we're gonna write this down. It's gonna be pulmonary hypertension, or pulmonary, let's say, congestion. Now, what can cause it? 2 main things. One is a thromboembolism could cause this. So let's say there's a thrombus that's formed. So a clot. Thromboembolism. Okay, so we've got a thromboembolism. You can see it tries to pump out, it can't. Resistance. What do you think happens? It tries to undergo concentric hypertrophy. It can't. It ends up dilating, right? Same thing. Another thing is that some people have what's called chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, right? COPD. Now, in COPD, it's emphysema, chronic bronchitis, right? You have blockages in the alveoli. And that means that, so if you've ever read up on what's called ventilation perfusion coupling, what that states is that the amount of blood going past an alveolus needs to match the amount of ventilation that's happening at the alveolus. If you've got more air coming into the alveolus, we'll get more blood going past it. It makes sense. It's a match. It's like if a football game finishes at the Oval and all these people flood out of the stadium and they want to go home, you need enough buses to take away those people, right? You want it to match 1-to-1. That's why it's called the ventilation perfusion coupling. It needs to match. But if it's blocked, it means that the airflow is very low. So what happens is the blood flow becomes low. It constricts, right? It constricts. Now, if you've got blockages in most of your airways, like you can have with emphysema and chronic bronchitis, they're all constricting and all that blood backs up, right? So that's another cause. So COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, can be another cause. Okay, so that's all going back. So there's a couple of causes. More causes for right side heart failure is ischemic heart disease, which is also known as coronary artery disease. So again, your coronary arteries feed the myocardium, the heart muscle, from the outside in. So that's a coronary artery lining the surface, embedded in the outer surface of the heart, and it's trying to deliver oxygen and nutrients. But if there's a blockage, right? So there's a clot, there's a blockage, less blood gets to there to feed it, and this tissue starts to die off. So now it's starting to die off and it loses its contractile ability. If it loses its contractile ability, it can't contract to pump enough blood out to the pulmonary circulation. That is right-sided heart failure. So that makes total sense. What about valvular disease? That's another one for valvular disease. Now I said in the left side heart failure video, there's two valves, mitral, also known as bicuspid, and the aortic. And I said left side heart failure can happen if the mitral valve becomes weak and prolapses, and the flaps just go out like this and the blood regurgitates. That's one way. Or a stenotic hardened aortic valve. It's the same here. You got two valves. You got your tricuspid valve and, let's draw it up here, your pulmonic valve or your pulmonary semilunar valve. It's the same thing. If this tricuspid valve becomes weak, it means the blood that's trying to get pumped out actually regurgitates back up. So you can have tricuspid regurgitation. That means less blood getting ejected, less oxygenated, right side heart failure. Or this valve could become stenotic and hardened, right? So you could say a stenotic pulmonic valve. That means, again, it's trying to overcome pressure or resistance. You get the hypertrophy, same thing happens, right? These are the major causes. Now, what I want to talk to you about is what can happen. How does it present? We said in left side heart failure, how does it present? That stops working. No oxygenated blood or less oxygenated blood makes it to the tissues of the body. You get less oxygen and nutrients, so you have weakness and fatigue. That makes total sense. Okay, but remember, I said there's forward failures and backwards failures, right? So let's have a look. What is the forward failure for right side heart disease? So let's draw this up, right? Let's write forward failure. So forward failure of right side heart disease is that the blood does not make it to the lungs for oxygenation. It's not making it there for oxygenation. It's actually going to be very similar to left-sided heart failure because less oxygenated blood, less going to the body, weakness and fatigue. So the forward failure is very much like left side heart failure with weakness and fatigue. It is the backwards failure, which is interesting. Because it's all getting congested up, you get venous congestion, right? So it's all backing up. Venous congestion, and as it backs up, the venous pressure gets so high that fluid leaks out at the tissues. And that's called edema. And because it's in the periphery, because the veins are draining back from all the tissues of the body, you get peripheral edema. Peripheral edema. Right? That makes total sense. The pressure's so high, it just gets pushed out at the capillary bed. But because of that, because all the tissues of the body are draining back into this venous supply, there's a very important subset of these tissues, one of which is the liver. So you've got the liver, right? So there's the liver. And the liver, remember, is receiving blood that's coming from a couple of other organs. It's coming from the stomach, right? So it's draining from the stomach. It's coming from the pancreas. It's coming from the spleen. It's coming from parts of the intestines. So you got blood from all these organs draining to the liver, right? So remember the portal vein, right? And then the liver needs to drain into the venous system, specifically the inferior vena cava. But my point is this: if you've got right side heart failure, this blood is backing up, and it backs up into the liver. The liver has the capacity to store blood. That's actually a normal function of the liver. It can store many hundreds of mils of blood. So the liver starts to store more blood because it can't pump it out. So the liver gets bigger. So you get hepato, which means liver, right? Megaly, which means big. So hepatomegaly, big liver. But here's the other thing. These organs that are draining into the liver, it backs up to them as well, and they start to leak fluid out. Now, where are they located? They're located in the abdomen, in the peritoneum, and that starts to fill with fluid, and that's called ascites. If somebody has a very distended abdomen and it's fluid filled, that's ascites. And that's happening because there is this portal hypertension. So the portal system that these organs are draining into, right? The portal vein has hypertension. Blood backs up. It leaks out into the peritoneum, right? Ascites. Another thing is that you can actually see as a presentation, because of the jugular vein, right? It's a vein, pressure backs up. The jugular vein, which is a prominent vein, becomes distended. So you can get a distension of the jugular vein. Jugular distension, right? So this is right side heart failure. I'm Dr. Mike, and I really hope that helped.